So since COVID, there's been quite a lot of talk of digital signatures, and that's especially handy from me for an operational point of view, because our franchisees are potentially all over the country, and it saves a lot of postage and time waiting between. What's your views from a legal angle on that?
Yeah, I mean, this is a bit of a contentious subject. What I can say, bottom line, is that e-signatures almost certainly work, or certainly do work most of the time. Just to take you back a step and just explain the whole context of it, what you are doing in signing an agreement, whether you do it in writing as a wet signature, or whether you do it electronically, you are entering into a contract. And what you need to be able to do is to evidence that you entered into the contract. So in theory, you can enter into a verbal contract with somebody. It's all then about proving what terms you agreed. But a contract doesn't need to be signed to be valid, okay? So therefore, an electronic signature is as good as a wet signature or any other kind of signature for a basic contract. And here, of course, I'm talking about the UK. I'm not talking about other countries. That's a whole different kettle of fish. But here in the UK, that's how it works. The one problem area that there has been is where a signature needs to be witnessed.
Okay.
Because where a signature is witnessed, it tends to be because the document is being signed as a deed. Therefore, it needs a signature of a witness in order to be valid. Now, that is something that's quite separate to normal contract law, okay? So that's where there is an area of question mark over wet signatures, over electronic signatures rather. Now, some of the providers of electronic signature services, such as DocuSign, have a quite good system for e-witnessing documents. And I think you may have come across it before. Technically, probably, and I have to say probably, it works. So if the witness and the person signing are in the same room at the same time, and they follow the instructions given to them by DocuSign or whoever it is that, whoever software they're using, it probably does work. The reason that I'm saying probably is because, of course, there's no legislation on it yet, and there's been no case history on it yet. So probably you're fine to go, and most lawyers, I think, now are accepting that e-signatures on franchise agreements, even where they need to be witnessed, the signature needs to be witnessed, are perfectly valid. Now, the one caveat I would add to this, though, and it'd be interesting to hear your take on this, whether something is e-signed or hand-signed doesn't matter a jot if you lose the document after it was signed. And unfortunately, us that deal with franchise litigation, we find a fair percentage of the time the main problem with enforcing the franchise agreement is that the franchisee or the franchisor, or both of them, have lost it. Or never signed it properly in the first place, or thought they'd signed it but missed out details. So whichever system you do, whether it's electronic or whether it's wet, the most important thing to do is to make sure that when you've got the document done, that it is printed off, that it is stored somewhere in hard copy, so that later, if there's a problem, you can always go back to it.
I would imagine on that as well is, if it is lost, you might have signed the version that was 4 or 5 versions ago. So there's no proving actually at that point either which version you've signed, even if you try to bring up the latest version.
That's absolutely right. And if you're a franchisor and you're trying to enforce an agreement against the franchisee, if you've got nothing that's got their signature written on it because you can't find it, the franchisee is almost certainly going to look at whether or not they can deny that they ever signed the thing in the first place. So once you've taken that into account, the convenience of electronic versus face-to-face hand signatures, I'm not sure that the electronic is always more convenient, because it's actually with a written document that you sign in person and then you save as a PDF. Works just as well as an electronic signature at the end of the day. But it's whatever works for you best. If electronic works for your whole system best, go for it. But then do be careful about document management. Don't rely on DocuSign or whoever it is to keep your documents for an eternity. They might do, but they might not, and you can't rely on them.
But it's also where the value of your franchise business is. So if you try to sell your business, you've got 50 franchisees and you can only find 20 signed documents, your value is on the 20, not the 50, because they could be doing whatever.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And one last one: should someone sign before they pay their franchise fees, or should they sign after they pay?
Or as if I were acting for a franchisor, I would always say get the money in your account before they sign, so that you're not dealing with having to do bank transfers or writing out checks as you're signing the agreement.
Yeah, fine, makes sense.
Again, you have to have a system and then implement that consistently across the whole franchise network. But generally speaking, I'd say get the cash up front.